Welcome, everybody, to the X Factor podcast. Yours, Bruly, here, riding shotgun next to the man, the myth, the legend in his own mind, JR, Mr. Jon Rennie. And that bottom square down there, that is the DFE, the director of everything. Bleep that out, Parker. The last time I swore on the pod, he did not bleep it out. He just let it roll. And I'm certain that we triggered some of the younger folks. We melted a few snowflakes, let's say. Anyway, this is the X Factor podcast where we talk to you about things and people who are X Factor.
Yes.
And this is brought to you by Bottom Gun Coffee, bottomguncoffee.com. Parker is rocking the t-shirt. Shame on you for not repping my merch because, well, I would like to think that the clothing brand sponsors this podcast, even though technically it really doesn't. Anyway, bottomguncoffee.com. It's freaking delicious.
It is.
Smarter and better looking, I promise. John, what does the X Factor mean if we have some rando P3 listener, and we'll explain the P's in a minute. Some rando P3 listener just stumbled upon us. X Factor, what's that? Set them straight. Educate them.
So the X Factor is the it. It's what makes a person, a brand, a product, a company, a song, an artist just rise above the pack, rise above everybody else and take that dominant position as number one. So we've talked about authors on this show. We've talked about
what do we know about authors?
We know about authors is that we, on a previous episode, met the first billionaire author in the world. But it wasn't.
Met them?
Well, we talked about them. Her.
Because we know nothing about authors. Yeah. What episode number was that anyway?
Number 21.
Want to know about X Factor authors, X Factor books.
Right.
X Factor 21.
21.
Okay. And this is episode number
23.
23.
23.
Michael Jordan's jersey number. So
yes.
Yeah, it's the it factor. It's why winners win.
Right.
If you don't have it, it's why losers lose.
Yep.
Plain
Every time.
Simple. So yeah, today we are talking about X Factor criminals. I mean, presidents of the United States.
Which pretty much the same thing.
President. See, let me explain how I got to that FUBAR first. Okay. So I think president, and in my mind, I hear politician, and then ding, 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 ding. Immediately think criminal. Think criminal.
Yeah.
Right? Crooks.
Yeah.
I'm not a crook, as Richard Nixon said. I'm not a crook. Yes, you
you were.
Thou doth protest too much.
Yes.
Who said that? Norman Rockwell?
I think so. Yeah. Right. Who's painting a picture of somebody's mother.
Yeah. I'm a real Vincent Einstein, aren't I?
Totally.
So we're talking X Factor presidents, and this is John and I don't agree on a lot of things.
Right.
Right. He and I have many philosophical differences. We line up like perfectly though on all the important things.
Right.
Like the fact that we like bourbon.
Yes.
And we like the same presidents.
Yes.
So we had this epiphany. We broke new emotional ground via text on Friday evening.
Yes. I remember this like it was yesterday.
Yeah. Well, it was almost yesterday, Sunday. For people who are wondering, we record these on Sunday. We usually do 2 episodes back to back. Sometimes we do 3, which would be back to back to back. And we release them. Parker's supposed to release them on Thursdays or Wednesdays, but like Wednesdays, he randomly will do one on Saturday. Listeners will give him shit on social media. He'll feel guilty. He'll get back to a regular schedule and then he'll screw it up again. How we haven't fired him, I have no idea. And I want to remind you, as I'm going off on this tangent, he wasn't my hire. I had a San Diego State cheerleader lined up for his job. Thank you very much, Jon Rennie. I love you, Parker. You're the best. Anyway, we line up on the same philosophical kind of moorings. Like our foundation is very similar about the important stuff. Presidents and bourbon.
Yes.
And we were texting Friday night. I said, guess what I'm drinking? I picked up a bottle of Elijah Craig.
Yeah.
I'm normally a Maker's Mark guy. We know this. I did an episode on Maker's Mark. And I'm like, this stuff is freaking awesome. I got a bottle of the small batch, single barrel. It was amazing. And it was a little bottle. It was only like $14. It's crazy. But I figured like this small bottle, sample it. I've never had it before. And John's like, holy shit, we actually agree on something. I'm like, well, what episode? What's the X Factor subject we're recording on Sunday? And he said, one of us said presidents.
Presidents, yes.
Yeah. And I said, cool, I'll do. And I said, which one I wanted to do. And he's like, damn, I was going to do that person. That's my favorite. Like, holy, we agree on something else.
Presidents and bourbon.
A new emotional ground. I feel like we're like closer than ever.
It is, yeah.
We're like soon, like we're so in tune with one another. Pretty soon, we're gonna start. We're gonna be on the same cycle, John.
This. I was thinking about a bike with 2 seats, but yeah.
No.
Yeah, I got you.
We'll just say it's
bloody mistake in there, mate. So listen, we're talking X Factor presidents.
X Factor president.
Go first, and then we ease our way into. In case you're wondering, when you're listening to this sequentially,
yes,
episode is X Factor criminals,
and
I just might be doing. I just might be choosing the same person for both episodes. So go ahead, JR. Who is the person we were texting about that led to your quiet revelation while sipping bourbon and smoking a cigar on your veranda in your smoking jacket with your, I believe you were wearing an ascot.
Yeah, something like that.
On Friday night.
On Friday night, I was having bourbon. I was enjoying a cigar. And as we were discussing X Factor presidents, my first thought was the guy that led the strenuous life and one of my favorite presidents. And I mentioned it to you.
Joe Biden? When you say strenuous life, you mean when he fell up the flight of stairs?
Yes.
Or you mean parenting Hunter?
Well, that ultimately is a strenuous life. Yes, raising Hunter was probably difficult, especially trying to keep Parmesan cheese in the house during that time. So yeah, but no, Teddy Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt Jr. Was our president from 1901 to 1909. He served 2 terms as our president, and I mean, amongst other things, he is.
He's 26, right? He was 26.
Yeah, he was the 26th president of the United States, and before that, he was the 33rd governor of New York from 1899 to 1900. And
far cry from the current governor of New York.
Yeah, slightly.
As they call him now, the Cuomo-sexual.
Is that what they call him?
After he started harassing, they found out he was sexually harassing all these women.
Right.
Someone in the media coined the term Cuomo-sexual.
It's he's given Bill Cosby a run for his money, I guess, at this point. So, but no, I like Teddy Roosevelt. I mean, he obviously was president of the United States. He's famous for so many different things. One of the things I really enjoy about him is his speeches. I mean, if you look back over the years of all of his speeches, I mean, Man in the Arena is one of my favorite speeches of all time. But he was a guy that believed in action and getting things done and doing things and not just sitting on your butt and reading and or not doing anything. He believed in actually getting out there. He was an avid outdoorsman. He was a hunter.
You know why he was such a tremendous orator?
No, why?
Because he had a really, really good memory.
He
claims He claims he had a pornographic memory. So he could just look at an entire page once and memorize, like almost take a picture of it and memorize the whole thing.
He did have a very
Yeah.
strong memory.
Isn't that, what are you guys laughing at?
Well, you
That's what
mentioned
it's
him.
called when you like can picture an entire page and like it's almost like you memorize it and you remember the whole thing. Yeah, it's
Right,
called a
right.
pornographic
Yeah,
memory, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's it. But you know, he's famous for so many different things. Some is for speeches, his writing. I mean, the guy was a prolific writer, is a speaker. But one of the things I really like about him, he's actually the father of the modern Navy. Many people don't credit him for that, but he was actually the undersecretary of the Navy when the war. And he wrote basically in his when he was undergraduate, he wrote a thesis about the War of 1812. And
What year was that?
It was before 1812.
The War of 1812.
Or after.
What year was the War of 1812, Parker?
I think it was 1812.
Yeah, it was 1812.
Who's buried in Grant's tomb, Parker?
What?
Who's buried in Grant's tomb?
I've never heard that before.
I'm asking you, you don't know? Did you take U.S. history? Who's buried in Grant's tomb?
This is why our audience is so old, because we all get that joke.
Oh, Ulysses S. Grant?
Ding, 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 ding. Look who's awake. Wow. So anyway, John.
So he was the undersecretary of the Navy, and when the
Yep.
conflict started with Cuba in 1898, and he actually left the Navy to go, you know, it's a kind of famous story. He went to become leader of the Rough Riders during the Spanish-American War, and that's kind of how he
condom
became,
brand, Parker. Not Rough Riders condoms.
Didn't even know there was a condom named Rough Riders.
Because you're Amish.
And you know, and if you remember your history, he really built up the Navy. And in 1907, when he was president, he actually sent the Navy. They called it the Great White Fleet, and they sent him around the world as a show of power. And the ultimate accomplishment, of course, was the Panama Canal that was built during his time. It was all about.
If he were around now, he'd have been canceled.
The Great White Fleet, yeah.
Great White Fleet. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we canceled the Great White Shark. That's how woke our country is right now.
Yes.
So what I didn't realize is he's a Harvard graduate.
He is, yeah. But he dropped out of grad school, though. He never finished grad school.
He was
which
at
is
law
kind of
school at
interesting.
Columbia, and he left, right?
Yep, exactly right. Yeah. So he never finished his master's degree, but still he was a prolific writer. I mentioned he wrote 35 books, and they estimate he wrote about 150,000 letters during his time, just his life in general. I mean, of course, he's famous for, the teddy bear, right? There's a famous story where he was on a hunt, and they had tied up a bear to a tree to allow him to shoot a bear. And he just said, no, I'm not going to do that. That's not sporting. He didn't consider that sporting. And the stories got out, and then it was that became like, and then I guess some, businessman came up with the idea of a teddy bear, like to celebrate the fact that he didn't shoot a bear tied to a tree. But
it's one of my favorite memories with the three of us was when we took Parker to the mall and let him get a Build-A-Bear. We can let him make his own Build-A-Bear.
The Build-A-Bear was sweet. It really was sweet.
Fun.
Yeah. That was nice.
What's the story with the FDR, Teddy Roosevelt connection?
Well, you probably have
He's
to. I didn't write that
related
down, but
to that socialist.
they are related. Yeah, but I think they're cousins, like fifth cousins or something like that. Did you look that up, John?
I just looked up like what's the deal with were they related?
Yeah, they were related, but it was like
I know the answer. I figured I'd quiz you.
No, I didn't. I didn't see that as important.
Since you're crushing hard on old Teddy.
No, he was related, but not in terms of policy, but in terms of family, yes. So his policies were completely different than the other Roosevelt. But I think not the funny, but the one thing that I've read or that I think is cool about Teddy Roosevelt is the time that he was shot in the chest while giving a speech. In October of 1912, he was given a campaign speech. And at this point, he was trying to run in a different party to try to make another run to be president.
The
And
cocktail party, I believe it was.
what was it?
The cocktail party.
It was the cocktail party. Yeah, exactly. They have a famous dress. He was given a speech and he was shot in the chest with a 38 caliber Colt police revolver. And
that's why we need to defund the police. We needed to do it back then.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the police didn't shoot him, but it was a police gun that shot him. It was another individual. But anyways, what's interesting is that he got shot in the chest and he had his speech in his pocket, which they believe slowed down the bullet. And it was such a thick speech that it slowed the bullet down where he didn't die, but he did have a chest wound. He was bleeding, and many in the crowd thought it was a prank and that he wasn't really shot. Like it was just.
You mean like Kurt Schilling and the bloody sock was really a ketchup packet?
Right. That's
where Schilling got the idea, watching Roosevelt stage that fake shooting.
Right. It
was a paintball gun.
Right. So I thought that was pretty funny that this is what he said to the crowd at the time. He said, "Friends, I shall ask you to be quiet as possible. I don't know whether you fully understand that I have just been shot. But it takes a lot more than that to kill a bull moose," which was his, one of his many nicknames over the years. But he continued to deliver the speech and he didn't quit. And, if you look over his life and, obviously I can't cover it in 15 minutes, but go ahead.
Question.
Yeah.
Was the Man in the Arena poem, speech, whatever you want to call it, written before or after he was shot? Because I am assuming he was shot by a critic. And the Man in the Arena states it is not the critic who counts.
Right.
The man who's actually in the arena. I'm really wondering if Parker could maintain his composure long enough to look that up. What year the Man in the Arena was written? Because he was shot in 1912, you said?
Yeah, 1912 is when he was...
Didn't kill him, didn't even come close to killing him. He didn't die for like another, 7-8 years?
Yeah, he lived a lot longer than that, yeah. So...
It says here, April 23rd, 1910.
2 years earlier, yeah.
Well, either way, it was a critic, that's for sure. I was half right.
Because
definitely a critic.
It says here it's called the Citizenship in a Republic.
Yep.
Yeah, that was the speech where he gave that. But the one thing I want to say about this is that when you look at Teddy Roosevelt's life, it's just amazing the fact that he did so much. He achieved so much in a relatively short life, and I like the idea that he attacked this idea of promoted this idea of a strenuous life and doing things and not just sitting around and think about all the things he achieved in his lifetime. And when we take a look at our businesses or what we're trying to do in our life, we say, well, we always have excuses why we can't do something, right? Or
it's the economy.
Yeah, it's the economy,
market,
it's COVID,
it's competition,
it's Chinese tariffs.
It's Obama's fault.
Obama. I mean, we're always saying reasons why we can't do things, and but we're only on this earth for a certain amount of time. And when I look at the life of Teddy Roosevelt, he did so much in that time period. Yes, he came from privilege. Yes, he had some opportunities, but he also did some amazing things. Like people say,
also John, he was also blind in one eye.
Yeah, so that's another thing. He was in a boxing match in the White House, and
the rest of us are all out of excuses. I was blind in one eye, got shot in the chest, and lived.
Well, he got blind. He was blind in one eye in about 1908, and then he got shot. So
and yet he achieved so much. So when we sit there and we worry about all the things that we the reasons we can't do something, I think when we look at a life of Teddy Roosevelt, we see a life well lived, and we see someone that achieved despite the challenges. And we didn't even talk about his wife and daughter dying and all that sort of thing. But he's had a lot of rough things happen to him, but yet he achieved so much. And that's why I look up to him as a president, as a person, as somebody in history that achieved a lot and lived a good life. He had a life well lived, and we can do that as well as entrepreneurs, as business leaders. as in what we're doing. And we don't have to stop, and just because we have a problem or we face a challenge, we need to push on and push through it. And we have to live a strenuous life. Got to get out of the office sometimes. You got to get in the woods. You got to spend time, doing hard things. I think you learn when you do strenuous things, hard things, what's possible. And he was somebody that you couldn't kill a bull moose, right?
Well, eventually, talk about like his nickname, Teddy Bear, the bull moose.
Yeah.
You got to get out of the office, get out in the woods. He's a big time conservationist.
Mm-hmm.
Like 150 national forests, 51 federal bird reservations, 4 national game preserves, 5 national parks, 18 national monuments. And he protected a total of 230 million acres of public land.
Yeah.
And, he was a guy that saw the big picture, John, which is one of the things I love about him is like he wanted to protect public land, like massive expanses of public land for future generations.
Yep.
When most presidents are only thinking about, okay, I'm elected now, I'll spend the next 3 years and 11 months fundraising and campaigning.
Right.
Like he spent his time doing things.
Yep.
Doing tough things, as you like to say. Was fascinating to me. I just never realized this. He was and is still the youngest president in history. That's amazing. He's 42. JFK was 43 when he entered office.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Compare.
I feel like the presidents back then had a bigger sense of urgency, like a sense of more like trying to accomplish more. And the presidents
I
now,
don't know, man. Did you see how fast they killed Epstein? We better hurry up and kill him before he talks. Yes, Bill. Yes, Hillary.
That was a sense of urgency right there.
Yeah.
There'd be no Panama Canal without Teddy Roosevelt.
Right.
How about that?
Yeah, I mean, he really understood the purpose of naval supremacy, right? In terms of being able to dominate, to be a superpower, right? You needed to have a strong navy. He believed in that. He did that show of force, like I mentioned. The Panama Canal was
over in his grave that this year the Chinese Navy surpassed us in terms of size and strength.
Yeah,
he's probably just absolutely appalled.
Yeah.
But you don't want.
Yeah, it's a little sad, but yeah, no, I think men of his time, these guys, pretty amazing the way they live their lives, and I think he's a great example of someone who lived a good life, a strong life, did some amazing things in his life, and we could do that too, right? There's no reason why we can't achieve our goals, overcome our obstacles, and live a good life as well.
Yep. It's amazing how great minds think alike, John, and you want to study great men and great presidents, people who are concerned for the greater good and humanity, who get things done fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the perfect segue to the X Factor president that I have for you. You chose number 26, and I am choosing number 45.
Oh, the handgun?
J. Trump.
Oh.
Now, I will say this.
This is going to be controversial.
This is, people have probably turned us off already. Now, listen, this is not an endorsement of Donald Trump. And when I say X Factor, that doesn't mean great human being.
Right.
X Factor does not mean this person has to be, some kind of humanitarian or even a freaking role model. X Factor is just different.
Yep.
Someone who defies the norms, gets results, gets unexpected results, and blazes their own trail. And I think you'll agree Teddy Roosevelt did that. I think you'll also agree when we're all done talking about this, Donald J. Trump did the same thing. I mean, the guy, is one of America's most successful entrepreneurs, allegedly. And not that anyone's seen his tax returns,
I haven't.
No, I haven't
Yeah.
either. I asked him for him. He wouldn't give them to me. Um, but seriously, you know, the boardroom, campaign trail, it doesn't matter. Success leaves clues. And you know, when he was running for office, you know, one of my coaching clients is a member of the House of Representatives, and I help him, you know, with messaging, campaign, marketing, and then also just coaching with his own, you know, his own business. But I suggested that we go to each of the different politicians, each of the different presidential candidates on both sides of the aisle to their rallies. You know, they hit New Hampshire really early, as you know, John.
Yep.
And so we went to each of their rallies, you know, in advance of the primary. And so we went to see Sanders, went to see Clinton. We saw, oh God, who did Trump run against? Cruz and I believe Rubio at the time. And so we went to all of them, and we went to the Trump rally last. And you know, we like to talk a lot about marketing on this podcast and brands and how business, you know, relates to all these other subjects and sales because you know at our core kind of that's what we are as entrepreneurs, you know.
Right.
We're brands, we're marketers, we're salespeople, you know. Just might not say that on our business card, but Donald Trump back then, before he was even elected, um, was the campaigner in chief. And that's why I believe he is an X Factor president. You know, he defied norms, and I knew he was going to win when we went to all the other primaries and you saw a fraction of the media trucks. The lines to get in the building were significantly shorter. There was far less security. It was quieter outside. When you got to the Trump rally, in the typically it's you know in one of three venues up there. They're all kind of in the same places. You got to his, and it was packed compared to the week prior. Um, there was loud rock music outside, like inspirational, kind of very American rock
Yeah.
music. There was tailgating, so you really felt like, am I going to an NFL game? Like if you just dropped somebody blindfolded in this parking
Yeah.
lot and said, "Where are you? And what are you about to witness?" Be like, I'm either at a rock concert or I'm at like college football or NFL game, and I just can't see the stadium from here. That's what it felt like. There are people grilling, selling merch, all kinds of merch.
Yeah.
Um,
Think
you know,
about this
people were
too.
getting bussed in. There were RVs.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was wild, and it didn't change that much inside. You know, he set a tone with very inspirational music. Many of the artists respectfully asked him to never play their music again on the campaign trail, but it was about marketing.
Yep. Think
He
about this.
understands you're a marketer first.
Yeah, yeah. That's it. And this is the thing with him is branding. I mean, that's the thing that really no one's ever done that as well as he did. I mean, and of course now it's the butt of jokes, MAGA, right? Make America Great Again. But that was something, the red hats and the MAGA, and that was the first time any president had done something like that, where you saw the
Yep.
red hats, you saw the logo, and it wasn't just. So, I talk a lot about like mission
It's the
statements.
same shade of red as the Russian flag.
Probably.
But seriously, people who owned red hats that didn't say "Make America Great Again" got harassed by people who were too intellectually lazy to read and see that it actually said
right. Eventually, it became a bad thing. But I would just say the marketing of that in the early stages before he was elected was brilliant. And think about the nicknames he chose for all of his competition. He put them in a box just by a few like 2 words,
and that's the whole thing. You either control the narrative or the narrative controls you about everything.
Right.
So what did he how did he refer to Jeb Bush, John?
It was low energy Jeb, right?
Low energy Jeb. Now here's the funny thing, and this is where I've said all along, Donald Trump's playing chess and his competition was playing checkers.
Yes.
You know, if you searched jebbush.com, back in 2015 before the election. Do you know where that went? It redirected to donaldjtrump.com. Someone on Bush's team
Yeah.
let his domain expire. Someone on the Trump team bought it and redirected it to the Trump website. Again, that's like,
Wow.
playing chess, not checkers.
And think about poor Jeb Bush. He was the smartest of the Bush boys. And he ran for president at a bad time. he's like, wait, my brother was president and I'm the smart one here. What is going on?
Yeah, I mean, it's, Trump is proof that, like, to your point with Jeb being the smartest of the Bush children, like,
yeah,
you could have the greatest product in the world, but if no one knows about you, you're sunk.
That's
and
it.
Like, he couldn't articulate the fact that he was incredibly bright.
Right.
So the lesson there is have set a Google alert for your competition's domain name.
Yes.
And when that expires, if they forget to renew it, pick it up. And how about the misspellings of your name? If you misspell my name and you went to coachbrew.com, it's going to redirect to my website. Because not everyone spells good.
Yep. If you spell my name John with a John and you search, it'll get to my website. So
brilliant.
It's brilliant.
So
but
make fun of Trump and like how he talks and he speaks at a very elementary level, and his words, he says he has the best words. What people don't realize is he's really quotable. He's deliberately really tweetable. But beyond that, the average reading level in the United States is 7th grade, people.
Yep.
7th. Because that's the average. That means half of these people, half of the brilliant scholars in our country read below a 7th grade level. So he is speaking at a level where the masses, where sometimes the M is silent, the masses will always understand him, and it'll be impossible to misunderstand him.
I think
the last, go ahead, John.
I was going to say the other thing too. I think because he spoke plain and to kind of the forgotten man. I think he changed the Republican Party in that now I think the Republican Party is seen as the party of the blue collar worker, whereas before that was definitely a Democratic stronghold. And I think that has shifted now to where the Democrats are considered for the elite, whereas the Republicans are considered for the working man. And I don't think that's 100%, but I definitely think there's a shift happening. And he was responsible for that because of his plain language and because he said, I'm looking out for you. I'm going to drain the swamp. The swamp is bringing you down, And I think he did appeal to a different audience than a standard Republican candidate.
And I think a big part of that, funny you mentioned that, is there's a concept in marketing called mind share.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump owned far more mind share of the American public, whether they were Republicans or Democrats, than any of his competitors, particularly in the Republican primary. Trump received 54% of the media coverage of the Republican race, which was, wait for it, 6 times the coverage of the second place candidate in that party.
Wow.
So, like, he manufactures things to his advantage.
Yeah.
And it was in real time using social media, not traditional ads. But I would encourage every single person watching or listening to this, take a long, hard look at how you gain mind share. Do you gain mind share? Are you simply using online ads? Are you using real-time marketing? Are you creating a dialogue? Are you, forcing people to remember you, like it or not? Red hats. Like it or not, are you forcing people to remember you? And he had mind share. He was renting space in his haters' minds to the point that if someone has St. Louis Cardinals or Cincinnati Reds baseball hat on, people assume they're a damn Republican, Trump fan, and they went up to give them a piece of their mind and yell at them, and then they're like, it's just a baseball hat, ma'am.
Yeah.
Settle down, Karen. Settle down.
It was,
Not a
yeah, he
MAGA
definitely
hat.
owned he owned rent-free space in the mainstream media's heads for years. Even today they can't stop talking about him.
Have you
They miss
seen
the day.
how
Yeah.
much CNN's ratings have plummeted since he left office?
I haven't seen, but I imagine it's a lot.
Significant. SNL is having trouble coming up with content because they don't have him to mock anymore.
Right. So
talk about mind share, you know?
yeah, I think
So,
it's remarkable. I think the other thing too, whether you like it or not, that phrase "Make America Great Again," it was I always talk about having a vision statement or a mission statement that's so short that you can repeat it often with your employees and then remember it, right? So.
Yep.
In my company, we say we're a different kind of supplier, and there's a meaning behind that. There's something. Our actions are going to be different than the mainstream suppliers in our industry, and everybody knows that in our organization. I think "Make America Great Again" is a simple, a mission statement, if you will, that is repeated over and over again. It's not something that's in a binder.
He plagiarized from Reagan, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. But
it works. Why not? If it ain't
know,
broken.
But for those of you who are running businesses and you have a mission statement that's in a binder, like on a shelf gathering dust, that is not going to be an effective way to lead your organization. No one's going to know what it means, right? If you've got binders full of information, that's not going to fly. You need to be concise. You need to be simple, and it needs to be meaningful. That phrase, like it or not, was very meaningful.
Yeah, and people are looking for a model to see, not just a motto to say. You've got to take that slogan off the wall, off the banner on your website, off of the letterhead on your off the stationery, your company stationery, and bring it to life. But yeah, I think that is again, like, not an endorsement, but X Factor.
Yeah,
there's no question he's an X Factor guy.
Yeah, he was a force. I mean, he was something. I mean, history will say that he was probably the most unique president we've ever had.
Yep.
Like him or not,
Exactly.
So. Yeah, but what's kind of sad is that even though he was the most unique and like most represented president of all time, like he had all the media on him. Somehow, it's funny because media works in weird ways, and I guess even if somebody is looking to win, they still lose somehow.
Yeah, you don't like the rules, change them. Try a foul, create a dossier.
Yeah. No, I mean, he had a lot of critics. I mean, he was bombastic. He was plain spoken. He created a lot of enemies, and
huge amount of enemies.
Yeah. So
bigly.
Eventually, he riled enough people up to rally against him at the end of the day. But yeah,
the funny thing is when you saw his behavior after he got elected. Me being the clairvoyant, visionary that I am, I predicted he would win the election. I also predicted he would lose re-election, because what gets you elected is not the same thing that gets you reelected.
Yeah.
He took the exact same approach to getting reelected that he took to getting elected.
Yeah.
So I just want to let the record reflect that I said he would not win re-election.
Yeah,
I didn't even predict the fake pandemic or the mail-in ballot. I didn't even predict any of that. I assumed it'd be a level playing field, and he would still lose.
Yeah. Yes. Well, he'll definitely say he's definitely someone that has affected history now at this point, and he definitely impacted the United States. He did change the game in politics. He took advantage of the attention of others, and he changed the game, I think, and he's definitely an X factor, that's for sure.
What did you say he took advantage of? Did you say
I didn't say anything about interns.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman. That's my best Bill Clinton impersonation.
Was he looking at Hillary when he said that?
I'm not even going to go there. I think this is a good time to wrap up the episode
I
before
believe it is.
before John gets us canceled. And I don't mean me. So I want to
Yes.
remind everybody that when's this going to release, Parker? Seriously,
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Okay.
Yeah,
So you
Wednesday.
still have time, folks. You still have
Yes.
time to join my contest to win a standing desk for
Yes.
the clothing brand for our spring collection, which you see me rocking the hoodie here and the
Nice.
hat here. And those are just two of the items that we sell at chinupchestout.com. And for every dollar you spend there, for every book that you buy, you earn points towards this raffle where we throw your names in a randomizer, and every dollar equals an entry. So you spend 120 bucks, you get 120 entries, and then on April 30th at midnight, contest ends. We draw the name of one lucky winner, and we send you an Ergotron WorkFit P sit stand workstation, compliments of yours Brulee. So
I love
just
it.
wanted to throw that out there and remind everyone that sitting is the new smoking. And by buying our apparel, you could be extending your life if you win.
Yes.
As we are sitting right now.
As we're sitting. So funny story for you, and then we'll wrap this thing up. I did a TED Talk in Vermont a bunch of years ago, and I'm at this conference, and one of the first speakers of the weekend was a woman who spoke about sitting disease. And she explained that for every hour you spend sitting, you decrease your lifespan by 2 hours.
Oh,
She said doctors, the Mayo Clinic refer to sitting as the new smoking. I mean, she scared the bejesus out of me and my buddy Ken, who had invited me to the conference and recommended me to speak there. And we're standing in the back, we're sitting in the back of the room. And as she's like going over these staggering statistics, I looked at him, he looked at me, and we both stood up for the rest of her talk. And I looked around the room. This is just how hardwired we are to have just like a default setting. I mean, she did a great job presenting a case for sitting less, standing more, moving more. No, everyone just stayed seated. Everyone stayed seated. All the other speakers the next day and a half after her. Think about that. Like that's just how hardwired we are to have this
yeah.
kind of default setting, this pattern ingrained in us. Whether it's habits like sitting versus standing, diet, whatever it is.
Yep.
Scary. But anyway, yeah, sitting's the new smoking, and the three of us are sitting on our asses while we're telling you that. So with that in mind, I am going to stand up, take a break, and let you know that I adjust my camera here for people watching on YouTube. Yeah. The podcast has been brought to you by this X Factor President's podcast has been brought to you by Bottom Gun Coffee. Go to bottomguncoffee.com. Get yourself some Ahab's Revenge. They have t-shirts, they have hats, they have awesome coffee that, as I told you before, will make you smarter. I believe it adds 40 IQ points, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes.
and makes you better looking. So, like, if you're a 6, guys, this will make you at least a 9.5.
Right.
Seriously. So go there, do that. The next episode, which actually, when we get done here, we're going to record the next episode. It's about X Factor criminals.
Mm.
And you can go back and listen to all our episodes, rate, review, comment, thumbs up, like, share, tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your haters all about us. John, closing words.
Go to chinupchestout.com, get some gear, and get in the opportunity to win a prize from Coach Brew. You've got that standing desk. You want to win that. You got till April 1st. So do it. Chinupchestout.com. That's it. That's a wrap. Have a great afternoon, and we will see you next time.